In the past couple of years, I've been playing a lot of games like Gears of War and Call of Duty, which are great games, don't get me wrong, but they're kind of like injecting testosterone directly into my eyeballs. And if that keeps up, I'm just going to start calling everybody bro, and that just can't happen. So for this review, I decided to go back to my roots as a gamer and dive back into the genre that really gave birth to my love of games. This, of course, is the RPG, or more specifically, the JRPG. It's a genre full of adorable anime girls, gigantic swords, and titles that I usually mispronounce. Which brings me to our Tenelico, Qoga, the third one. Now explaining this game gets a bit complex, so I'll start off with the basics. First, the graphics. They're not great. Qoga is the first game in the series to feature 3D graphics, which is a step up from the sprite graphics of the first two. But they just aren't on par with what you've seen in other games, such as Eternal Sonata. The other visual problem with the game that I had trouble ignoring was the motion of the characters. Oftentimes, the walk or run speed doesn't seem to match up with the amount of ground covered, making the characters seem like they're gliding along the surface rather than walking. And stairs just look terrifying, since the run animation causes you to leap down several stairs at a time, which just looks odd. But ultimately, graphics won't make or break a JRPG. The battle system, however, can, and that's where the game falls short. It falls victim to the same thing that has been hurting RPGs for the last few years, which is pressure to make the gameplay more action-oriented. So it's out with the traditional turn-based system, and in with something simpler. But simple isn't always better. Battles are set up with a 3-person vanguard in front, and one female character called a Ravatel in back. You control the group's leader, and the rest of your party is AI controlled. And your job is simply to fight while protecting your Ravatel so she can sing and charge up a powerful attack. The problem is with how you fight. You have one attack button that can perform special moves if pressed along with a button on the D-pad. And that's it. Sure, you can move around the field at will and occasionally use an item, but in the end you don't have much else to think about. Now you're supposed to time your attacks with the high points in the meter at the bottom right, but if you've just attacked or have just been attacked, you have a moment of lag that gets in the way of properly timing your attack. And since your attacks are sluggish to begin with, you're almost better off repeatedly tapping the button at random. You'll get the same result either way. So there's almost no strategy to the battles. Now you might ask, why do I need to time my attacks to begin with? You do this so that you can fight well. And why do you need to fight well? To impress girls and make them feel safe, which is important to your Ravatel who hangs out in the back, because she needs to charge up a good attack, and the faster the better. And apparently the best way to do that is to start stripping in the middle of a fight, or purging as the game calls it. I know that sounds like a poor combat strategy, but it seems to work for them. Each of your Ravatels has 4 layers of clothes to show off before they can use their best attack. That was the first layer. And with each layer that goes missing, your Vanguard gets various power-ups to help them fight. Now I'm sure this raises a bunch of questions, but for now let's table the subject and return to it later. So on to navigation. It's done through a menu system both in the world map and within cities, along with some environments with pre-rendered backgrounds that you can walk around in and do your shopping. The city environments are for the most part decent looking, and have enough detail to work. However, once you enter a dungeon, things start to look awfully familiar, since almost all of them have at least one other area in the game that looks exactly like it. The enemies you face have the same problem. In a 40-hour game, I only saw about 20 different types, but with different colors. There are some other small problems that add up. Like when you equip a new weapon, it doesn't change the appearance of the one you hold in battle. There's a ton of backtracking and revisiting areas that you've already cleared. And why they decided to assign one major battle command to the DualShock's motion controls, I will never understand. And you won't either while you're shaking the controller like a madman. The text on screen is also a problem. Even on a good-sized HD screen, it's still almost impossible to read. One thing that just felt odd was the overall lack of boss fights. Oftentimes you would get to a point where you'd expect one, but just end up fighting the same robots you fought 80 times, except this time they're green.
Shall we begin?
Now with so much to complain about, you might ask if there is anything that can save this game. Well, there is. Sort of. The story starts out simple. Boy meets girl, and then another girl. Insert generic empire that wants boy and girls captured. Eventually it picks up though, and it gets more original. But all of it serves as a purpose to advance the character development. Not the main character, he's just a standard hero type, although slightly dumb. No, this story focuses on the Ravatales who support you. To level up their abilities, you must journey into their minds, or soul space as the game calls it, and find out what makes them tick. This element of the story unfolds like a visual novel, where you travel to different locations within the heroine's mind to help them. And it gives the game an opportunity to show that some characters have some depth. Ultimately, they aren't as deep as I would like, and sometimes it goes in some really disturbing directions. But it works for the most part. Okay, now we can get back to the half-naked girls. Are they necessary? Nope. Are they inappropriate? Definitely. Are they a bit sexist? You betcha. Although the guys do get in on the action sometimes as well. Ultimately though, it doesn't hurt the game. And it does have an M rating, so I will give it a pass. However, the dialogue often goes a bit too far. The series has always been suggestive, but Qoga has brought dirty jokes out into the main stage. So forget Qoga. They should have called the game Tenelico Sexy Sex Sex, and also Sex. Giggle giggle. I would be fine with it if they were a bit more clever about it, but instead it just comes off as juvenile. In the end, Tenelico Qoga is a bit disappointing. The story is halfway decent, but its overly simplistic battle system and lack of variety just seems kind of lazy. So as much as I was rooting for it, I have to give it a 6.5.